Hi, Carol. Morning, Carol. Are you muted?
Sorry, I had my mute button on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're muted.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I mute during the lesson so that if I sneeze or cough, it doesn't shoot my picture up on the screen while you're in the middle of trying to show us a move. Uh,
Okay. How are you
oh,
this How are you this morning?
oh, fine, fine. Beautiful morning.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful day.
It is. It would be more beautiful if the pollen would settle down a little bit. It's just,
You're
I'm
asking
finding yeah, I'm finding it is
you're asking
giving
too
me a
much.
few issues. Yeah, yeah. Not bad, not bad. Oh,
Uh,
goodness. All right.
so,
All right. I just lost you for a minute, so I'm going to put you back on here.
okay.
Okay.
So
There we go.
I'm waiting. We're waiting for the others.
Okay. But actually, no questions this week. So
Ah,
I took three things out of the last session that you gave me, and I've been working on those this week. So
uh-huh.
the recordings are great.
Yeah, they can be helpful.
Yeah.
Here's Joanne almost.
There we
Hi, Joanne.
go. Good morning, David. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Joanne. Okay.
Oh, how were your travels, Joanne?
For the most part, they were wonderful. Let's see. I'm echoing.
You are.
Wonder why.
Joanne, let me mute. Maybe too many microphones are on.
It's not usually. Well, that did make a difference.
Ha.
Although I've certainly been on calls where um, I've been with a lot more than three people.
Yeah.
Anyway, the delightful part is that yesterday Tuesday I drove to New York to surprise a friend who was getting honored.
Yes.
I drove down with Maria. I remembered the day before that she goes down to New York to right near where one of my War Resisters League coworkers is
Ah,
to watch her daughter for Tuesday. So we had a lovely 3-hour trip to New
well,
York together.
yeah, that's great.
Um, and then she dropped me off, and I went to visit my coworker for a few hours before heading down towards the party. But I got on the train, I got on the subway to go there, and a man offered me his seat, and I, grabbed the pole, and just as I was about to sit down, took my hand off the pole to sit down. This train started with a massive jerk, and
Ah,
I fell right down.
oh no.
And I tried, I lived in New York for 7 years as a longtime subway rider. You kind of know the things, how to put your feet down and but I was in the middle of a move when it happened, right? I had just let
Yeah.
go. So I
Yep.
went to grab the pole again, but by this point, my body's kind of moving back. Gravity is like pulled me. I had a backpack on, which
Ah,
probably was both why kind of pushed me back more, but it also probably saved me because I fell on my back, or I fell actually on my hip. So my right hip is hurting.
ah,
But I was so stunned, because you're just on the floor of the
yeah,
subway
yeah.
moving. Two people just jumped up and grabbed me. I mean, they were great. They just picked me right up. As soon as they started, I was like, just take the backpack off first. I had arnica in my bag.
Ah.
They're sucking on those pills. But it's gonna hurt for a while. Nothing
Yeah.
broke. I'm a bit bruised on one, in
Yep.
one spot. But it's just, oh my God, yeah.
Ah.
kind of shocking. So
Yes, it
wasn't much
is.
I could have done about it, I suppose. What do? And it's not a train, it was the L train, which is a train I'm used to, but apparently it always jerks forward like that. Like it started just with a,
Oh, wow.
I remember hearing it.
Huh.
It's just like the brake kind of bang. Anyway, but the party was great. My friend was totally surprised that I was there, and it's a lovely honoring of her for her work and organizing in Brooklyn. And
Oh,
a bunch of
that's
other friends I didn't expect were there too. So yeah, it's always nice to
great.
see my old friends.
And
So
Belinda is here.
I am here. Hello.
Hi, you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
How are you?
Good.
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 Everybody's pretty good today, except Joanne has a sore hip.
Ah,
we'll see how that works out today.
yeah.
I can sit okay. It doesn't hurt to sit.
Yeah.
And Carol is quieted, so no one else will echo. You should get back on and try at some point, Carol, to see. But yeah, I'll mute too while David is
So
talking to us.
I just wanted to point out this new calligraphy over here. I was very honored. The George Hoffman and Joe Pandolfo came and presented that to me along with a very nice honoring statement for my devotion to World Tai Chi Day and Tai Chi. And it's a really lovely calligraphy by Lorelei Chang, which basically says, wishing me long life like the southern mountains.
Mm.
So I felt very honored by that. And just thought I'd share that
Yes. Yes.
with you guys.
Yeah.
It is a very good calligraphy. She's very skilled. Perhaps not quite at Jian's level, but very good. So. So Carol has told me already that she has no questions this week, but she's been focused on three things. What were you focused on, Carol?
The three things that you brought to my attention that I realized I was doing is not going down the side channels after the movement where you drop your hands. I was coming down the center.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one. The other was the one that Joanne and I had quite a lot of discussion about last time, bringing the hands on movement 5. And again, I was coming up the front, not realizing the side circles.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one was what you've told me before, slow down my movement 6. I was really going way too quickly with that.
Good. So Linda and Joanne, do either of you have questions or things that you have focused on?
I have been trying to focus a little bit more on twisting.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to feel the twist. I was struggling with 1 and 2. Feeling that twist, probably because it was too slow. It just is a slower tempo for that kind of thing. So,
it is very subtle in those movements. One of the things is in the transitional movement to make sure that you get the twist of the arms in, so that as you go up in one, you have some place to to twist from.
That was kind of where I was going, and so I'm glad you confirmed that that was the best place. So,
Yep.
yeah, good.
Absolutely. Anything for you, Joanne?
The echo is back, though. So I think we're all going to have to mute
Mute. Yep.
both
Except
of
the
us.
person
now.
who's talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, I was getting an echo and I didn't understand anything of that.
Let me see. Oh, yeah, it is. You can only have two at a time on here.
Yeah.
No, I actually had mentioned that the echo was so bad it was hard. No, I don't have any questions at this point, David. Thank you.
Okay. Good. So, hopefully, you all have your armpits under control, more or less. So we're going to look at the hands and the feet. Now, when we learn how to open and close the joints, we look at the hands and the feet first because they have a very distinctive quality to them. The joints in the hands and the feet move open and close in two different directions. They open and close vertically, but they also open and close horizontally. And I'm going to show this with my hand. Linda may be able to see it. I don't think you'll be able to see it on Zoom, but sometime when you're here I'll do it again. Because opening and closing is not a muscular movement, it's an energetic movement. And when we're talking about the hand opening vertically, it's opening in this direction. So if I open and close vertically, there's no particular movement. There is movement of the joints opening and closing, but not very much physical movement. And horizontally, they open a little bit, but there's no obvious physical or muscular movement. And these are related to the fact that all of our movements ultimately we think of as being spherical. And so eventually, not only do we think of the joints opening vertically and horizontally, but also with a sense of sphericalness. But we'll come to that later on. In the marriage of heaven and earth, the feet should be driving your hands more than your hands are driving your feet. And I would definitely say that the feet are the trickier ones, and they are the ones you'll need to practice a little bit more. So if you could get the vertical and the horizontal going together all the time, then then what I'm going to show you now is actually not very necessary, because you already can do the whole thing. But because that is so difficult to do, on the basis of separate and combine, we start very simply. And this is primarily, this first movement, one, is primarily a vertical movement. So here, one is vertically opening, two is horizontally opening, three, A and B closing vertically, 3C is closing horizontally, and then 4, we really want to think about the feet here. The feet are closing horizontally and then opening vertically. In 6, we're closing horizontally and opening vertically. Nothing to it. And we'll work on that in a minute. But I did want to demonstrate it for you so that you could see the whole thing and have it on the video. So focusing on the feet will enable the bones in your feet to open and close fairly easily. And you want to one of our problems is that many of the shoes that people wear are like cement coffins. They prevent the motion of the feet. It's a really great problem. There's a great value to spending a certain amount of your time walking around barefoot, because it allows the feet to actually do what they can do. So throughout most of history, there was no such thing as super tight-fitting shoes. It was not the way that shoes were made. As a matter of fact, most of them were sandals, which has much less restriction. Now, why is this important? There are forms of acupuncture that only put needles in the hand or from the fingers to the elbow or in the feet, because everything in your body and all the energy channels in your body, one way or another, end up ending in your hands and your feet. And when you constrict these and they don't move, it impedes the acupuncture meridians, the flow of them in your entire body. So having your feet where they're able to open and can open and close easily, and as well as having your hands where they're moving and they are easy, is very valuable for your health. Any athlete will tell you that feet that are really tight and don't move easily stop them from being good in whatever sport they're working in. Ask anybody who plays any form of musical instrument with any kind of fine work with their hands. If your hands are cramped or gnarled up, they don't work very well. So the ability to have the joints in both your hands and your feet moving in both directions is a valuable thing for your life. This can at least help counter the negative effects. So let's play a little bit with this. So stand up. And just step out in your basic structure. Feeling yourself open, not stretching too much or collapsing. Let your breathing slow and lengthen. just standing there, see if you can close and open your feet and your hands together. Just feel a pulsing in them. And there's a rhythm you can access. It's like a large magnetic pulse field. And now I want you just to focus on closing your hands and your feet horizontally, sideways. So close in and open out. Sense of pulsing. And now feel the hands and feet opening and closing together vertically. Both simultaneously connected together. The feet tending to drive the hands more in the reverse. And now see if you can open and close your hands and feet together vertically. Now let's do heaven and earth together, thinking about that. So doing your transitional movement to begin, and then opening vertically. And opening horizontally. and closing vertically. Closing horizontally. Closing the feet horizontally, opening the feet horizontally. Closing horizontally, opening horizontally. And just continue that for a minute. So transition, open vertically, horizontally, close vertically, horizontally, close horizontally, open horizontally, close horizontally, open horizontally. And keep going. complete this repetition, close. So, questions, comments? What did you feel? What didn't you feel?
David, I think I could actually start feeling the movement when you started the first practice, where we were just standing, and I could concentrate on that. I found I was losing the horizontal, vertical, because when I was doing the actual movements of the heaven and earth. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just refer to your notes and slow it way down when I practice, even maybe just trying a couple of the movements at a time rather than the whole practice.
Sure. Nope, that's fine. And doing the standing practice first is certainly something I found helpful, because indeed it is easier to usually
Yeah.
to do it just standing than when you're trying to integrate it into the movement. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me.
I would say for me.
Oops. I would say for me, and I'm like Carol, it's like, wait a minute, I think I have this. Do I remember exactly where? And at some point at the first half I'm good, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. But then I realized I was focusing on my hands much more than my feet. And in the standing practice, I felt totally coordinated between the two. But I think once I got into actually moving everything else, I was like, oops, up, I forgot the feet. So that's something I'll need to work on too.
Yeah, absolutely. Good awareness.
Yeah, ditto for all of that. It's definitely, I could mentally go, okay, open, close, wait, am I vertical, am I horizontal? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of started coming together a little bit mentally. I'm sure I wasn't feeling it because I was so focused on that.
Yeah.
But the last bit really, I couldn't feel it. My feet, when we were sitting, I was trying it out, and I could feel a little bit of it then, but when I stood up, I really struggled. Is there a weight point that you've got? I mean, in the...
We haven't gone to that yet, but yes.
Okay. Because I was trying to do a little bit of shifting of the weight, see if it made it easier or more difficult.
Yes, there is a subtle weight shift on the feet, and
Okay.
I will come to that.
Okay. Okay. Because doing just the standing, opening, and closing was where I was trying to experiment with that. But I think I really need to do more of it even sitting. I think I'm much more comfortable, much more in tune with it there. But
The legs are always, and feet are always more difficult. that basic issue of the fact that we stand on them, and we don't think about relaxing the feet and legs, because we use a lot more muscular contraction to stand up than we actually need to. So learning, being in proper structure is important, and also learning how to let go of some of that tightness in the legs allows you to open up towards the feet and into the feet eventually. So
David, just to take off on what Linda was just saying, you made a comment at the beginning, it's not muscular, but especially in my feet when we're standing, it's weight bearing. How do you not make it muscular when all your weight is on your feet?
you relax your feet and ankles. That's one of those things that I can't give you some trick to do it. The trick, if you will, is to learn what's the difference? How does it feel? I mean, you won't be able to see this, but I'm tensing up my feet and my ankles now, and so that I feel really solid. But now I've just let them go, and it doesn't change how I look, but boy, it changes what's happening energetically at my feet. Because now I can feel the energy going through my feet and down into the etheric body below my feet. When you tighten up to support yourself, you cut it off. So it's one of those things that you have to play around with. How do I let go of that? And I don't think I can give you any any other tricks to that at the moment. But it is a really important element to begin to feel that ability to release not only the feet and ankles, but the entire legs, ultimately. So I realize that that's not perhaps exactly what you wanted to hear, but it's kind of the reality of the situation.
No, it points me in the right direction, David. It's something I'm going to work on. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just can I follow up on that for a minute?
Sure.
Because I think the way that I think about this, having been in other practices where we've done this, is that there's kind of the I'm not even sure what to call it, but kind of maybe the more supportive part of the foot, the harder part of the foot, kind of more the back of the heel and around the sides, before I get to the toes, that feel like kind of that's the least movable energetically and otherwise in this practice. And so I feel it more kind of down through the middle of my feet to my toes. So I don't feel that. I understand that contradiction that you're talking about, Carol, because I've kind of gone through that process, I think, of thinking about my feet. But I guess that's how I kind of think about it. I don't know if I'm thinking about it correctly, but it's kind of how I've settled into that.
Certainly the middle of the foot and the toes are much more flexible and do release and open more easily. Absolutely. So just a couple of places to remind you in the movement. Remember that in your preparatory movement, you do want to allow the arms to bend. I'm going to exaggerate this, but you want them to bend as well as twist, so that you have some place to extend from, because you want that extension to keep going all the way to this point and then to here. Don't rush this. Let yourself make that connection and pull over. So I'll talk about this more in another day, but one of the things that ultimately we're endeavoring to have happen here is to wash the brain with the energy. And what happens here is that the energy moves in to the center of the brain, eventually completely through it. So you don't want to lose this part of the movement, because it's important eventually when you can begin to concentrate on that part of the movement, the element. And here, not only is the energy coming over the top of your head, but it's coming through the brain also. So that's really, really important. And when you do 3C, remember that needs to be a pivot on the Laogong points, which you have supposedly connected to that point where your tongue is connected to the roof of the mouth. So this movement, while you are still sinking very slightly, this movement is simply a rotation on the Laogong point, and ultimately you can feel the Laogong point, make that connection and hold it as you do that horizontal closing. And then when you go down here, remember you're going down the side channels to the Kwa point, and that point is right in the inguinal crease, halfway between the perineum and the point of the hip. So you want to go down to that point and then around the hip. And notice that my elbows are not going back. They're going out and then down the outside of the leg. That's more than enough, I think, about all of this. Any other questions on heaven and earth at the moment?
Lots of practice there.
Yeah. Okay. So, I wanted to do the meditation that goes with all that talking I did last week. So let us do that at this point. So sit. Remember, you want to have your back straight, feet flat on the floor. Connect your hands in whatever way is most comfortable for you. Focus on your breath. Doing as much of your longevity breathing as you can without effort. And I would like you to have your eyes closed to begin with. So I'm sure we can all agree that each of us has a body. want you to be present to what's inside you. Be aware of your mind jumping from here to there. And I want you to refine this a little bit. I want you just to be present to the life inside you. That's all I want you to do. Just be present to the life inside yourself. If you do really get present to the life inside yourself, it would not be a bad thing to be grateful for that fact that you have it. And if you can be present to what's inside you, can you be present to what will be true in all times, places, and circumstances? beginning to be present to spirituality. Then when you're ready, we can begin to close. So starting with rubbing the hands together until they're really warm. And then covering the eyes. And feeling that warmth, helping to begin to soften, open the energy gates in the eyes, which tend to get congested. When you feel them beginning to soften and release, lower your hands, and on an inhale, sweep up, connecting the Laogong points to Bai Hui above your head, and then separating the hands, bringing them down the front, and to feel the extent of your etheric body, and then drawing the energy into the heart and breathing. And then bringing the energy down to the lower dantian, again connecting through the Laogong points. And then sweeping up, connecting again above Bai Hui, and coming down past the front corners of the head. Make sure the hands are not too close to the body. And then into the heart. And down to the lower dantian. And again, repeating that as you come down the back corners. And then coming down the back of the head, around the neck and down to the heart. And the dantian. Back corners again. And then the front corners. Down the front. And come into the heart. And holding there, sending all benefit gained from this practice to help all the sentient creatures of the universe, which, remember, of course, includes you. When you are ready, come back to the dantian. And releasing. Any questions or comments? Okay. This is the first class of a new session. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and practice, practice, practice.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Carol. You too.
Bye-bye, Joanne. Bye, Linda.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you.
God.